5 simple, innovative ways to great time management.
Welcome to the Becoming Your Best podcast with Steve and Rob Shallenberger. I'm your host, Jamie, and you're listening to the show that is guaranteed to help you transform your life and achieve results that otherwise would have seemed difficult or even impossible. Each episode is a mini training where you'll learn how to achieve extraordinary success. Steve and Rob are a dynamic father and son duo who are helping transform lives and businesses around the world. Rob is a top-rated global speaker and trainer, best-selling author, former F-16 fighter pilot, Air Force One advanced agent, father of 4, and CEO of Becoming Your Best Global Leadership. Steve is a #1 national best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, having started 11 businesses in 3 different industries, and highly sought-after keynote speaker and corporate trainer. He is the father of 6 children and the founder of Becoming Your Best Global Leadership. Steve and Rob Shallenberger.
Welcome to our podcast listeners, wherever you may be in the world today. This is Steve Shallenberger, your host for the Becoming Your Best podcast series on leadership and ways to improve ourselves personally and professionally. Today we have an exciting subject. It is 5 simple, innovative ways to great time management. And to preface this a little bit, I'd like to share an experience that I had not long ago. We were visiting our son and his wife west of Phoenix, Arizona, near the White Tank Mountains. It is beautiful, but it's rugged mountain terrain. And so one morning we hiked up 3 miles up a ravine. And we arrived at a waterfall. We enjoyed the captivating area where the American Indians made their home. And we decided to jog down the trail. Now, this was an interesting experience because as we navigated the trail at about 4 miles per hour, I was utterly amazed at how my mind and body worked together, knowing exactly how to adjust to an ever-changing terrain. A boulder here and a dip there, a rattlesnake slithering along the side of the trail, literally, a spiny cactus, and as we gradually went up and down, descending safely back to where the cars were parked. This experience caused me to reflect on how our body system works together as we navigate through the daily challenges of life. And just as our body adjusted to the terrain as we jogged over a trail in the mountains, or your mind or heart adjusts to the terrain of relationships, your work, and everything you face from moment to moment. So this is amazing, this great tool that we are blessed to have. And it's literally this principle of prioritizing time allows us to merge our heart and mind memory consistently so that we can achieve a sustainable best in doing the things that really count most in our life. And repetition is crucial to the development of both muscle memory and heart and mind memory. One moment of creativity or being quick to listen really helps as we solve issues day to day. They make us more effective in time management. And so this is really powerful as we're going to talk about these 5 simple, innovative ways to be great time managers. So here we go. The first one is one we've talked about in the past, but it is absolutely a fundamental game changer, and it is to spend a few minutes each weekend doing pre-week planning. We use the example if you happen to be a pilot, let's say a commercial pilot or a fighter pilot or even a private pilot, if you had a complex flight coming up, going from one coast to the next or navigating through some desolate areas, how many of you would just go jump in the plane and take off? Well, no, it'd be crazy to do that. It'd be suicide is what it would be. Well, how many of us do the very same thing as we start each week? We just go in, week out with no thought. We jump in the cockpit, we show up to work, we do whatever we're doing. Well, we get the same type of results frequently. And so this little process of pre-flight planning in the pilot world assures the highest probability of a successful flight, unless something just unusual goes wrong. Well, this is the very same way with our week, is that this pre-week planning allows us to assure with some probability, some things could happen, that we're going to have a great week. And that's just the way it turns out. So let me just quickly review then the components of pre-week planning. It's done sometime during the weekend, but before Monday morning at 8 a.m. Why? Because that's when the fires start. That's when the crises come right off. We get going. And so we want to be prepared before we start. And the different steps to effective pre-week planning are to first start out by reviewing your vision, the direction you're going in life, your goals for the year, so you're tuned in to what really makes a difference here, and also review your upcoming calendar. So look a few months ahead and ask yourself, is there anything I should be planning to do this week that helps me to avoid a crisis in the future? So I stay under control. I'm able to feel this peace and confidence because I have prepared. The second thing that we do is write down your roles. Now, I would really recommend that you get a Becoming Your Best planner, whether you use an electronic system or not. This is a tool that is designed to help you put leadership first and then to become an effective manager with your time. A friend of mine, Roger Merrill, used to say that the Greek definition of time has two components: kairos, which is what's important, and chronos, which is the time element. And so what we're doing literally by starting with our roles is we're putting kairos first. We're thinking about those things that are most important in our life, and then we'll figure out how to do it well, the chronos. Okay, so we write down our roles. If you have one of our planners, there's a place across the top where you can do that. The next step is, as you contemplate each one of the roles, whether certainly yourself, and taking care of yourself, having good health, having energy, being well rested, feeling emotionally strong has a huge impact on your success, my success, and so we need to take care of ourselves. And it's okay to do that, to take an hour a day in different things that helps us be at our peak performance. Another role might be a spouse or a partner, a parent. Certainly my work, I have a couple of elements of professional, another is civic or church. So what are these significant roles? And then ponder, what actions can I take within each role to do the very best thing I can do in that role, to be the very best I'm capable of being, to make the biggest difference. All right. And then once you have that, that's totally the leadership part. This is literally scheduling your priorities rather than prioritizing your schedule. This is doing the things that really count. And it is totally inspirational. And then it's just answering the question. Then we start shifting to management. When will we do it? And we sketch this out. And after about 15 or 20 minutes, you've got a plan. And now, as you think about this week, you've already thought about the things that count most. All your various responsibilities. You'll leave plenty of holes in your calendar or schedule for the week so that you can move around things as the crisis comes up, and it's okay because you do it in a much more controlled fashion. Well, that's all pre-week planning is, but it is a total game changer. Here's the second thing that you can do, simple, innovative way to be a great time manager, is now that you have the week framed out, is take a few minutes the night before each day and look at what the day has coming up. You do this in the context of the week, of course, but you look at the day, you zero in, and you start getting a feeling of peace about it. You anticipate, you see yourself going through the activities of the day. I recommend a couple of things that are helpful. One is to follow the rule of 3, and that is to identify each and every day the 3 very most important things that before the sun goes down, you are going to get done. This helps to avoid procrastination. It helps you to be a person of action and get things done. So that's another thing that you can do is also to just close your eyes and mentally see the day going through the day, being successful. All right, that's number 2, simple, innovative way to be a great time manager. A third way is to realize that emails, texts, and voicemails are a very active part of today's world. And so the question is, how do we really effectively manage and efficiently manage those items of communication? If we're not careful, they can overwhelm us, they can take over our life, they can be disruptive. And so we want to really be able to address those with a definite plan of how to do it. One of the best recommendations I've seen is just to set 2 or 3 times during the day where you address your emails, your texts, and your voicemails. If there's something that's important, you can glance from time to time when I mean really critically important, but otherwise discipline yourself to keep those up. Another key component is to keep them up so that you don't get behind. I don't know about you, but if I let one single day go by on my emails or texts, it's really hard to dig out. And so I want to stay ahead of them, and especially because at least in my business life, people depend upon me to respond as well. This gets back to being responsible, to being accountable, to do your part so that people can learn to trust you, that you will respond. And this will open a lot of doors. Well, okay, so that's all I'm going to say about that. It's great to be able to keep them up. I know people that do one of 2 things, by the way, on their emails. One is they only address the important ones and build up 3,000 unread emails or whatever it is. Well, as long as you know which ones are important or not, that's okay. And then there are others that are a little compulsive, like me, that like to see their emails kept to 0. Even though I check in just a few times a day, by the night time, I try to clear every single one out if possible. Okay, but it all works. Now, number 4 of the simple, innovative ways to be a great time manager is to have effective meetings. So if you're a leader and you're responsible for meetings, or even if you're a participant, to take advantage of the time in meetings. Now, if you're a leader and you're responsible for setting up meetings, what are a few things you can do to have really successful meetings and respect everybody's time? A friend of mine once said, well, the best meeting is not having one at all. Well, I think all he's really saying is, if you're going to have a meeting, be sure there is a worthwhile purpose. Otherwise, if you can avoid it, certainly avoid it. Only have the right people in the meeting itself, whether it's a phone conference or in-person meeting, because time is so valuable. If you're in charge of the meeting, be sure there's an agenda. If you're not in charge, ask the meeting organizer if you can get a copy of the agenda so that you can be prepared. Once again, start the meeting on time and try to end a little bit early. I've never met anyone that got upset because the meeting got over a little bit early. And then as you're going through the meeting itself, create a parking lot so that you can stay on task. And if random issues come up, just ask, can we address this one at a later time? Let's put it on the parking lot. At the conclusion of the meeting, be sure you go over the action steps, who's going to do what, when, and where, and then wrap this up with a set of minutes so that people have a good review and those that couldn't attend are able to see what took place. So that's the 4th one. And the last and 5th simple, innovative way to be a great time manager is to avoid negative, draining interactions with others. Never will I forget one evening there was a knock on my office door. One of my very good friends a tremendous leader in the community, came in and said, "I'd like to get your advice." Well, I was taken back a little bit, and I said, "Well, tell me about it." And he had proceeded to indicate that they were at the neighborhood pool, and one of the other leaders in the community came up, and there was a kind of an intense issue that came up, and they somehow got crossways, and the one person said, "There's not a chance this is going to happen, and we're not going to help this person." And my friend had asked if they could make a donation, and what would the other party's ability be to help. Well, it just didn't go well, okay? That's the bottom line. It was upsetting, and they walked away having really ill feelings. Well, it was interesting because I just said to my friend, "Listen, go back and just apologize. Just say, listen, let's start this over. Let me be sure I understand what you're trying to do. And I'd like to share about my friend here and how we're trying to help, and I'd love to get your ideas on this." So see, that helps us get back on track, and at least we resolved this. And so my friend was, who I deeply respect, thanked me for the time and left. He called me later that evening. He said, "You'll never believe what happened when I got home. This other fellow was on my doorstep." And he said, "We had exactly the kind of conversation you talked about. We both decided to step back and start over. We listened to each other. We ended up in a better place." But I reflected upon this situation many times afterwards, that they both lost about an hour and a half. That's a lot of time when they could have been doing other things that were important. And how many times do these kind of situations take place? It could be somebody that cuts in front of us, a driver. It could be somebody that irritates us. It could be a family member. It could be a parent with a child or a married couple, whatever it might be. But things go south, and all of a sudden, we now have to figure out how to get it back on track. It's upsetting. It wastes time. And we can't focus on the things that really matter most. So what can we do? How do we avoid negative, draining interactions with others? Well, here are a few ideas. First of all, avoid negative interactions in the first place. Sometimes we're just flat cut off guard. And when that happens, if we can, it's nice to keep the presence of mind and just remember some of the fundamentals of communication and thank the other person for giving feedback. This, first of all, allows you to get control and just acknowledge them. Say, "I really appreciate you sharing this." And then the other part is, let me be sure I understand your feelings. If one person can have the presence of mind to do that, it changes absolutely everything. This is one of the other principles of highly successful leaders, being a successful communicator. I love the quote in the Bible, James 1:19, I believe it is, written over 2,000 years ago, has that little formula. Be quick to listen, slow to wrath, and quick to understand is essentially what it says. Imagine that. Being slow to speak, I think, is what it says, but it really means being quick to listen. And slow to wrath, in other words, suspend your anger and let's just try to understand this situation. Okay, now, also be determined to take the high road. Keep things in perspective. Don't stoop to what other people do. This is where each of these principles of highly successful leaders, it takes one person that masters these principles that can change everything else. And then keep things in perspective. How important will this be in 10 years from now? And if it is important, how do I get to a better place? And then being determined to get there. And then use humor if you need to. One of my great mentors, Gardner Russell, was an absolute master at this. We'd be in an intense meeting with negotiations, and Gardner would share some funny story, and all of a sudden, everybody would laugh and say, "Okay, now we can solve this problem. Let's get going." You can just be in the middle of it, and it's intense, and all of a sudden you say, "Listen, this situation reminds me of the two guys They were out walking their dogs. And it was a hot summer day, and they looked over. There was a pub, and the one fellow said to the other, "Hey, let's go have a pint." And the other guy said, "Well, we can't. There's no dogs allowed." And first fellow said, "Well, just follow my example. Just do what I do." And so he went up to the door, and the bouncer came out and said, "No dogs allowed here, sir. Can't come in." He said, "Well, I'm blind, and this is my seeing eye dog." Well, the bouncer said, "Okay, come on in." Wow, the other fellow saw this and walked up with his dog, followed his friend's example, and the bouncer came out and said, "Listen, can't come in, no dogs allowed." Ha! Well, the fellow said, "Well, I'm blind, and this is my seeing eye dog." And the bouncer said, "A chihuahua?" And the fellow said, "They gave me a chihuahua?" And then you can say, "Listen, I can see that we have no chihuahuas here. Let's get together and solve this problem." Well, it might be corny and it might be dumb, but humor helps. And then I think generally, if you can, avoid individuals that are chronically negative, and at least be aware of that tendency and to not react before you get to them. So be positive, pleasant, listen only, thanks for feedback, let me be sure I understand, because that's what becoming your best is. It's about taking the good and making it better, and the better best, and the role that you have in that. Well, that's it for today, folks. These are 5 simple, innovative ways to great time management. The skill, the mindset, and the skill of doing pre-week planning. That's number 1. Number 2 is to reflect upon your day the night before, and that morning just quietly look at your calendar and then go have a great day. The third is to manage your emails, texts, and voicemail well. Have a plan and stay ahead of the curve. Number 4 is to, if you're the leader, to be determined to have effective meetings. And if you're the participant, you can ask about what's the agenda and what's the time frame. And then if it goes over, always have something that you can do to be effective in the meetings. And then last of all is avoid negative and draining interactions with others, which will save a lot of time and help you be more effective. As we do this, we have become very effective time managers. It gives us a feeling of confidence and focus. But not only are we more effective, it influences everyone around us. And so remember, in doing this, this has a big ripple effect, and you have the chance to make a big difference as you simply work on these things. Well, this is Steve Shallenberger. It's been fun being able to visit together today. I wish I were knee to knee with you, looking together with you in the eyes and getting your thoughts on this as well. But may we all be determined to have a great day every day. Thank you. Steve Shallenberger with Becoming Your Best.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Becoming Your Best podcast. Don't forget you can find more great episodes of the podcast at becomingyourbest.com/podcast, along with great show notes, a full transcript of the episode, and all the links and resources mentioned in the episode. Please share your comments and questions with us. We want to hear from you. The best way you can show your appreciation for our podcast is to leave an honest rating and review on iTunes. Now it's time for you to take action and truly start becoming your best. Remember, good, better, best. Never let it rest until the good is better and the better is best.